Good morning and welcome to the Greater Macon Chamber Town Hall Forum. We're so happy to have these to update our community on very important topics. I now welcome our chair, Julia Magda, who will introduce our distinguished guest.
We are pleased to welcome Judge Verda Colvin and David Thompson, who are co-chairs of the OneMacon initiative. Today's Town Hall Forum is presented with support from Navicent Health, a leading provider of healthcare in Central and South Georgia and a valued cornerstone member of the Chairman's Club of the Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce. Navicent Health is committed to its mission of elevating health and wellness through compassionate care. With more than 1,000 beds offered in 53 specialties at 50 different facilities throughout our region, Navicent Health provides care for consumers through an academic medical center, community, pediatric, and rehabilitation hospitals, urgent care centers, physician practices, diagnostic centers, home health, hospice and palliative care, and a life plan community. Navicent Health is dedicated to enhancing health and wellness for individuals throughout the region through nationally recognized patient care, community health initiatives, and collaborative partnerships. For more information, please visit navicenthealth.org. I sound like a GPB person, don't I, given that announcement. OneMacon is a comprehensive community and economic development 5-year strategic plan. Over 40 diverse community leaders have come together to build this plan, harnessing the strengths and achievements of our various community building organizations. The strategy was built on 3 pillars: schools, jobs, and place, with the understanding that a community with quality schools and abundant job opportunities is a desirable place to work. In 2018, Judge Verda Colvin and local business person David Thompson assumed the reins of leadership and initiated the search for a national consultant to develop the version 2.0 community strategic plan. As a result, new participants with new energy seeking inclusion at all turns yielded a highly ambitious set of goals to increase educational opportunities, build wealth in all sectors of our community, and develop a higher quality of life for both our citizens and our visitors. Verda, I'll turn it over to you, and I look forward to your opening remarks.
Thank you. I'll start with letting David go first because he will tell you a little bit about the first iteration of OneMacon. So David, I'll turn it over to you and then I'll end our presentation.
All right, thank you. So I was frantically transferring my notes from my phone to a sheet of paper. I apologize, but thank you for allowing us the opportunity to present today to Macon Chamber of Commerce a little bit about OneMacon. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the history of the first 5 years where I was just a member, and a little bit about what OneMacon is, and then I'll let Verda dive deeper into version 2.0, the next 5 years of our planning. As Julia said, OneMacon is a comprehensive 5-year community and economic development plan that has a wide array of members within our community. In the version 1.0, we had about 30 community members, and we've increased it to 40 in version 2.0. This was an idea originally conceived by Catherine Dennis and Robbo Hatcher as they visited peer cities within, similar to Macon, on the inner city tours, which I guess were canceled this year due to COVID, but serve as a great opportunity for us to take a deeper dive in those cities that are doing well and what is it that leads to this success. The final catalyst was in 2012 was their visit to Nashville, Tennessee, where they consistently heard about the 5-year planning opportunities, and Nashville basically said we're on our 5th 5-year plan, and that was what inspired them to come home and to venture into this. Their analysis was that thriving cities had community development plans where it was all the partners working together. It takes a lot longer, but it wasn't a top-down presentation of ideas, thoughts, and actionable items, but it was what this broader community came up with. Version 1.0 was, again, it was a 5-year plan. Catherine, Robbo, and Clifford Whitby worked on this with 30 community members in 10 months with a consultant to develop a plan. And this was, particularly for me, a different kind of plan in that a lot of work went into it, but at the end of the day, there was an actionable plan based upon the group's desires of about 75 different action items, which would be worked on by the various members working under the OneMacon kind of umbrella. I'm going to break just for a second and say, OneMacon is a very non-traditional structure for a community-led initiative. We have no formal organization. We don't have any employees. It's Vert and I as volunteers. We have, and same was true with version 1.0. It was more of an attempt to develop a philosophy for others to rally around, that we're stronger when we work together. And we didn't just want to become yet another organization competing for money in the world, but it was amazing in the first 5 years how the philosophy came to really stick, and the individuals felt free to communicate, continued to participate throughout the 5 years, and at the end of it, we had 90% success rate on the 75 actionable items when we closed out the report. More information for that is also available on the OneMacon website, but in the educational component, the proud moments were the growth, the development and growth of the business education partnership with the chamber, taking the lead on that, and how Leader in Me has grown throughout all the school systems under the stewardship of business and the K-12 educational partners. We've seen a rapid uptick in the education graduation rates in those 5 years. And we also are proud to say that in the upper education, we've seen increased enrollment and growth of our university systems here in the Macon area. The economic successes, I believe, are was the development, primary ones, was the development of the Macon Action Plan, the implementation of this plan, and that was addressing the urban core. And it was also a collaborative plan where all the players came together and said, what are we going to work on? They're on their second version as well, led by the UDA. Newtown was able to successfully implement the bid, which was a self-imposed tax on the property owners in downtown, where they use the proceeds to continue security and cleanliness in the urban core. Sense of place was, well, let me back up on this one. The Visit Macon had great success in the increase in tourism, which is a great way for us to put sales tax dollars back into our community, put them to work through the hotel, motel, and the actual sales tax. And then the increase in the number of films that are shot here in Macon, which we continue to see today. Sense of place, I believe we can all easily rally around a lot of successes that we've had in the urban core. the strengthening of our museums, the continued investments, the increase in festivals, both the existing and the new, and a little bit more of a coordinated pattern on this one. They closed out their campaign in 2018, and as they were closing it, they brought Vert and I on to initiate, we'll take the leadership on version 2.0, another community 5-year plan. And with that bit of history, I would like to close with reminding it's more of a philosophy than it is an organization. And it's the philosophy of we can work on things together and achieve much, much more. What we saw in the 1.0 version was oftentimes the realization among various organizations of, wait a minute, you're working on that? We're also working on that. Why don't we get together after this meeting, maybe have lunch next week, catch up, and then we would have a new partnership that we had really nothing to do other than providing the opportunity for meeting in a continual spirit of moving the ball forward. So OneMacon is not really, we're not the ones who are doing all this work. It's the 40, 50, 60 different partners that have joined together to have this open dialogue and communication and sense of cooperation. And with that, Verda, you can take 2.0.
Okay. Thank you, David. I will tell you all, when Catherine Dennis, Robo Hatcher, and David invited me to go to lunch one day to talk about OneMacon, I listened to their pitch. But the one thing that made me say yes immediately was this concept of inclusivity, including every Maconite to ensure that we could have growth every place, everyone could feel like they had a buy-in, and everyone could feel like they could participate in the vision for growth and development within our city. That inspired me and that encouraged me to get involved. And so the next 5 years of OneMacon is designed to ensure that we spread our message abroad to include every component of our community so that everyone can feel the investment in growing Macon and helping it be the prosperous city that we know it can be. So after our consultants got involved and showed us the layout of our city in many ways that was eye-opening for many of us, we decided that in order to ensure inclusivity, which is what the next 5 years is all about, we needed to concentrate on marginalized communities, those communities that many times feel left out of the prosperity that our city has. And so those 3 communities of focus are, number 1, Pleasant Hill, where all of us have to agree we've seen movement, we've seen development. Additionally, Tyndall Heights. And then the 3rd community we want to ultimately concentrate on is Fort Hill. But the first one that we're focusing on is Pleasant Hill. And in an effort to ensure that we can include these communities in our vision to grow them to be prosperous, to be places where all residents of Macon want to go and experience the culture that they bring, we have devised 7 working groups. And let me tell you about these working groups. The first one is mobility and placemaking. Transportation is a barrier for many marginalized communities. And so we recognize the need to enhance our mobility so that people can get around, and these businesses that we want to desperately bring to our community that the Chamber is all about will be able to be ensured that the residents can get to the places of business. So because of that, we have the Transit Authority involved, we have by Macon involved, we have so many entities involved in making that a reality. So mobility is combined with placemaking, and placemaking means ensuring that there are public spaces within communities that can produce pride, bring about development, and bring other people into the community. We ideally want every community to have something that people from other regions within our community want to visit. So North Macon would want to come to West Macon because it has something that North Macon doesn't have. And so that's what placemaking is all about, ensuring public spaces. The second working group is talent and education. This goes right in line with the Chamber and the Board of Education, as well as all of our colleges and universities. We have to have talent to grow our city. We have to have talent to increase our educational opportunities. And so we will continue to push that BEP plan to ensure that our education as well as our talent pool is ready and positioned so that both the Chamber via economic development can ensure that businesses can come and have what they need to be prosperous. The third working group is arts and cultural tourism. We know that a city that has art and culture and they really espouse that art and culture end up growing. They bring visitors to the city. Those visitors, excuse me, develop a love for the city, if you will, and then that gives them the confidence or the willingness to possibly relocate to that city. We saw that when we did the inner city tour in Richmond, Virginia, and this is long before the unrest that we've seen in our country now. Their tourism and their arts, the cultural tourism, arts, that's what brought people to the city and to those marginalized communities. The fourth working group is the poverty working group. We learned that 27% of our residents live in a state of poverty. This working group is to ensure that we can bring economic development to marginalized communities, to those who suffer in a state of poverty, so that we can pull them from that situation to be vibrant parts of a growing community. That is the only way our community can sustain, and that is the only way that we can grow collectively. The fifth group is neighborhood renewal, and that is so vital to those three communities I mentioned, Pleasant Hill, Tyndall Heights, and Fort Hill. And we're already doing that work in Pleasant Hill. In fact, October 3rd, there's going to be a day in which a small group of people, because of social distances and all the rules that are in place, will be working in Pleasant Hill to beautify that community, to find out the problems that it has, and then to work towards solutions toward that. So we're already working, and neighborhood renewal is huge for this next 5 years. The sixth working group is business and industry. This is the engine for growth and prosperity in our city. And so the Chamber and the Economic Development Office, they are vital for that. And that's why we need not only these entities, but also every resident of Macon to really be engaged in all these working groups, or at least support the working groups and the efforts that we make, so that business and industry can grow. That's how a community develops. That's how a community prospers. And then finally, a working group that is not one of our main working groups, but it's one that I am spearheading, is the faith community. We know in order to make neighborhood renewal a possibility, we have to engage the faith community, because they touch the hearts, the minds, and the souls of people. And so we need that to be developed. And so we have various pastors who are helping in that regard. Social distancing has made that problematic for us, but that is something that we're doing and we will do more of as we move from this pandemic. I'd like to leave you all with this quote that I found that I think is so profound, and the reason why each of us must do our part. And I heard this, Justice Ginsburg, is one of the statements she made when she was speaking at a university, I believe. She said, everyone has a little part in making the whole better, to bringing us to the community and the nation that we desire to be. All of us have a part for that in Macon. And so I'd like to leave you with this quote that I added some to, but I think it's so profound in what we must do. Cities have the capability of providing something for everybody, only because and only when they're created by everybody for anybody. And that's inclusivity. And so we look forward to working with the community. We look forward to working with the Chamber and every entity that is vital for the growth of Macon. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you both. It's such a pleasure to have this dialogue with you both this morning. I've enjoyed being part of OneMacon with my time being here in Macon, serving on the steering committee, and just seeing the vitality and the energy of people that feel like they have a place at the table. And yes, we're all in this together. So David, you gave such a great kind of perspective of the OneMacon overview. Tell us a little bit about how the steering committee was selected, you know, what purposes they bring to the table, and how you saw that combination of talent come together that provided the platform for OneMacon.
Well, part of what was, we obviously turned to the existing committees that had helped on the version 1.0 and asked them to re-up. And when I say we re-up, we basically said, this is a 12-month project. Make sure you're committed to attending, and you can't attend them all, but staying committed and focused and helpful for the 12-month period. We really then took the lead of our consultant, and we chose someone from, of all places, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a group that just came in and seemed to really understand how to expand our boundaries. And we really opened the door for anybody who wanted to get involved. And in the course of their interviews, working with on the table and their active process, they were able to engage close to 5,000 different people. And of that, they guided us in the final selection of the 40 different groups. And I don't want to leave this meeting saying this is an exclusive only event. What we've found is that it works extremely well. We're really encouraging people to continue to get involved and add themselves in, but we'd really like it on the working group level so that Verda and I can maintain a sense of communication in our limited time that we can, this is not our day job. And
Yeah.
it is, the door remains wide open for all who would, and we would love you to participate more at the working group level so that it's more manageable for us.
Good, good. Well, Verda, you're now heavily engaged in the 2.0 version. What would you like to see, or your thoughts about the major emphasis of the 2.0 program?
I'd really love to see our economic partners, the Chamber and Macon Economic Community, get involved to the extent that they really help us galvanize this poverty working group to ensure that all citizens can be engaged in employment effectively, and also to really help us with these communities, this neighborhood renewal. I think it will help our community when people in communities outside of those that they have seen as being prosperous really help engage in their communities to make them all that they should be. So we need to see some investments in those communities. So I'd love it if when we're doing projects within any of the three communities that we're focused on, if these bigger entities like the Chamber, like the economic section will have a presence, not just in giving resources of what we need, but actually coming out and helping us so that they can see, and the community at large can see, that we're all invested in the betterment of every community. I think when we do that, we can really get a sense of community, a total sense of community in Macon. And so I want to see people personally invest, not just with dollars, but with time and energy. I think that goes even further of letting people know that inclusivity is what we're all about. This is not about one section of the community, but it's about all of the community.
And that makes a great point, because that's going to be where some of the talent opportunities are. I mean, with these neighborhoods, we've got lost opportunity with people being engaged in the workforce. So if we do that well, we will be combining an opportunity for them to succeed and also be affecting our economic bottom line for the community. So we'll be prosperous and moving the needle in that direction. So I love that philosophy of why this inclusivity makes sense economically for our community. David, we had a lot of great opportunities to have wins in the 1.0 version. What would you say is a standout from what was accomplished?
For me personally, I still go back to when our consultant showed us the redlining map that the federal government developed in the 30s, and the map that we saw was from 1937, and it's still today, the economic successes that we see today were defined by that policy. The quality of the housing stock is still defined by where those lines were drawn. Educational opportunities, and the one that really gripped me the most was health and anticipated life range was really a byproduct of economic policy from the 30s that continues to have a legacy today. So what I would like to see out of our 5-year success would be the successes in the neighborhoods that were marginalized close to 80 years ago that continue to suffer. The great example for me was where I was born in Bibb County. I have an anticipated lifespan of 85, 86 years old, I believe. I can go less than 3 miles from my point of birth, and the anticipated lifespan is 62 years old. And it just all correlates back to so much of it depends on where you were born in this city, and we need to move beyond and provide opportunities so that we can move beyond those limitations.
Well, that's pretty revelational. Well, what do you both, I'm going to ask you both this question. What do you think about how we look towards measuring accomplishments? What is that going to look like? And what are we going to be using to show those measurements?
Berta, you want to, or we have for each working group an action item list that's on our website. But Berta, do you want to go into that more?
Yes, the consultants actually showed us and we have it on our website, like David said, where we should be each year as far as moving the needle. And so if we can check off those boxes, having done that or having progress toward those areas, we can show that we've made movement. Of course, the pandemic has kind of stalled some of our efforts, but you can see that we're still doing things from the event that I told you about for October 3rd. So we'll still be making inroads, but we have those action items. And so that will hold us accountable for what needs to get done and be done in certain years. But I should say this too. We know that everything is progressional. So we've got these 3 communities we've identified, and we will be making efforts to do these things in each community. But we understand this may have to extend beyond 5 years. Nothing changes overnight, and everything is, transitional. So we understand that, but we will be making all these efforts and holding ourselves accountable according to our action plan.
I agree with you. And the beauty of this is that we have a roadmap. And we don't have to reinvent the roadmap, but we can stay diligent and focused on what needs to happen within those segments. And in 5 years, you start to see, accomplishments. So that's a really good way to have the investment of the roadmap. There's a lot of things about the 2.0 plan that will have different combining organizations. Tell us a little bit about how you all think those combining organizations will come together.
Well, I think there are 2 great examples that jump to mind immediately for me is the immediate collaboration that we're doing with United Way in hiring Dr. Sandra Woodford to transition into a day-to-day position in Pleasant Hill. It was not something that we had in our plan, but with the pandemic, she had the opportunity to take the job. We had money, United Way had money. We decided to collaborate and do the educational and neighborhood part together. And the second one that I think is just really, it's underway is the partnership that it was Jim Manley's idea, is to try to do a joint fundraiser to represent the needs of the chamber and OneMacon as well, because we're really working on the same action items. Why would we go out and try to each have our own separate fundraising? And that's maturity of a community.
Judge Colvin, did you have anything you'd like to add to that?
I think David hit all the points. That's so true.
Well, we're now in the middle of moving forward with the chamber and the OneMacon. I'd like to share that with our role with talent and education, we've had a couple of really great wins. We'll be able to have an announcement out in the community in a couple of weeks, but we've been able to find a very strong technology platform that will help navigate between the employees that need to be upskilled and the employers that need to have vacancies filled, and the student pathways that need to be directed, so that we have a pipeline of where young people and adults are getting actually advantages for employment right here in Macon. And we're so excited about this because this creates a synergy of all the deliverables of how we can then start measuring people in Macon Bibb getting into the workforce. And this has been a wonderful outcome of OneMacon and us having that assignment and us being able to be diligent at the platform to make it happen. So that's going to be a way that we can measure success. What would be your crystal ball? What would you like to see a year from now, both of you?
A non-pandemic world.
Yeah, that's number one. I'd like to see some movement in some of these items. I'd like to see more mobility and placemaking. And I think the Transit Authority is doing that. Bike Walk Macon is making efforts toward that. I think placemaking does a lot for making communities feel empowered. So I'd like to see those things, because I think those things are what we can work on even during a pandemic, so that when the pandemic is over or during it, people can see that progression. Also, I'd like to see some neighborhood renewal going on, because many of these involve outdoor activities. I think those are things that can be done even now. So for instance, Open Streets was just held last Sunday, and I participated in that. And hearing residents say to me, this feels so good that we can come out on our streets, have pride, seeing the kids draw on the street. And I told them, you know, draw what makes you feel proud about your community. And seeing people invest in their community gives them power to know that, hey, we matter. And if we could do more of that, and that was social distancing, it was outside, it was a beautiful event. And I'd like to see more of that going on. I think that does a lot to bring us close and really make inclusivity a reality.
David, do you have anything you'd like to see in a year from now?
Yeah, we didn't really touch upon it, but I did want to I would like to see the starting of the implementation of the cultural plan that was developed independently, but in collaboration with OneMacon, and we just saw it roll out about 90 days ago. Julie Wilkerson and Gary Wheat did a great job. And what's so encouraging on that one is the tie between cultural and economic, and they did, and I probably got the order reversed. It was more of an economic development plan built around the existing assets that we have, that involve the cultural arts and cultural opportunities within our community. I personally am most excited to see that one moving forward in the next year.
That sounds very exciting. Well, you know, there's so many things we could talk about with OneMacon, and there's certainly going to be many more updates like this that we can share with our community. I'd like for the two of you just to share with the community what you'd like for them to do to get engaged. What's your vision for the community as we have this time this morning? What would be your message imparting to share with the greater Macon-Bibb community?
I think what I want to say to the community is do your part, get involved. When you see us having events or going out into the community, and most people are much more engaged in social media than I am, so you can see that these things are happening, show up, get involved, show that you care. People can come into a community and make a difference and do things to enhance a community, but nothing breeds success more than those residents in the community becoming invested and getting involved. So when you see we're making efforts to come into a community to enhance the community, show up and get involved. That's the way to really, truly grow Macon and to have it be the place that we ideally know it can be. So we ought to always be mindful of our need to do our part, to grow our city, to grow our communities. That's what I'd like to see everybody do.
I like that so much. David?
I'm going to steal Verda's word, and I'm going to say inclusive. And I think that what I want people to understand is there are way more opportunities out there, and the opportunities are for everyone. And we need to do a better job of making sure that we make people comfortable in participating and sharing their opinion and taking pride within with their accomplishments. For so long, doors were shut and lines were drawn, and if we can get away from that and get people participating widely, I think we'll all have a much, much better place to live. Thank you.
Well, I just really appreciate you all this morning. This will be one of many. And I would like to say personally, I've been so proud of Macon during these hard times, because we have such a beautiful outdoor space. We have places that you can congregate, even though it's been a pandemic. You can still have wonderful walking outside venues. You can still go out in the downtown. You can still enjoy a picnic. You can still go to recreational areas. We've learned to be very civil with each other. We're not in a major disruption of the community. So there's something about this OneMacon that must be catching on. And I truly believe that as we go forward, there'll be many more things that we can celebrate that Macon check the box on, that other communities just aren't really civilly getting it together. So I want to thank everybody for being with us this morning. I want to tell you that this will be posted on our website, this recording. So please go to the website and look for this. We'll have another update of town halls coming in October and November. The chamber is still working very hard, even though we're not necessarily out with the events. We're still having many, many forums to share with the community on what is important, what is needed for updates, and how you can get engaged. So everybody have a wonderful weekend. Remember, make it safe. We want Macon to be safe, so use your mask, be protective, and enjoy the outdoors in the community in the weekend, and we'll be with you back again in October. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We appreciate it.